Here.
Selectmen's Rep.
Here.
And alternate Steve Malone. Alternate Brian Riverdale. And alternate Mother Amy. Yes. And Victoria or Michael. The agenda this evening is application public hearing, planning board number 23-003. That's a home-based business. Esther, Jalava request to establish a home-based business, operate a bakery out of the home located at 416 Sawyers Crossing Road. Subject property is shown at tax map 50, lot 1 in Jalava. B, planning board number 23-004. That's a site plan modification. Fieldstone Land Consultants, on behalf of John Flatley Company, requesting modification to a two-truck. Modifications include addition of a recycling center, recreation area, addition to the parking, relocation of the clubhouse, area, and truck building. Property located at 2 on 244 Old Drive, 19 lot 98, and other business to on that. Rules of procedure amendments and second of the regulation discussion on that. So the first item regional impact vote.
So move that there is no regional impact.
Aye. All those opposed? The minutes to approve would be first January 21st, 2023, and present. Have any comments on the January 21st, 2023? I believe would be the sidewalk.
Yes. This one?
No, second.
Okay, I do. On, no, 20, oh, no. RL, this is the 26th.
Make a motion to approve the 21st.
In trouble.
Johnson, Malone, and Curzon.
On page 3 of 10, in line 1, to say I was recused, and I was, but I would like it to read, it says that the chair noted letters in the plural raised about Johnson's ability to be neutral. I can be neutral anytime I want, but I would like it to say, and I'll give it to you after. Okay? And I would like it to, I'm going to. I would like it to say that the applicant asked that Johnson recuse because Ms. Blake had asked for and received a professional opinion in 2020 regarding her property from Greg Johnson, Realtor. Johnson recused.
That was the letter in question. That's the way I took it.
Yeah.
Step down, but that's up to you if you want to do it or not. So everybody in agreement with that? That's everyone's thought? Okay. That set of minutes, and again, that is the January 20th.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Karasinski to approve the January 26th. Is there any further discussion? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, those are out of the way. First item up is planning board number 23-003. It's a home-based business. Esther Jalava requests to establish a home-based business to operate a bakery out of her home located at 416 Sawyers Crossing. Property is shown at tax map 50.
Happy, are you here for that? Oh, right there, okay. Well, let's see, application here. Looks like it's going to be a bakery, and the selectman has already approved it as a home-based business. And it's located in the house. We have a small drawing, I think, in your packet, and we have one here. And the hours of operation will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Full-time employees, 1. Estimated customers per day would be 10. Parking spaces would be 3. Deliveries, 1 per week, UPS, FedEx, USPS. Outside lighting, 5 outdoor lights for parking and door to the bakery. I would assume that those lights are already there. Special licenses, what does that say for your special licenses? I couldn't make it out. It starts with an H. H-O-M?
Homesteader license.
Homesteader license. Okay, is that a thing? That's a homesteader license?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Homesteader license. And no sign at this time. Any, other than what's on the application, any presentation that you want to make? Yeah, at some point you include the sign, but you won't have to come to the board. You'll have to go to just a land use office. But I mean, as far as your business goes, anything other than, you know, a presentation you want to make, or it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? You're baking things there. Any questions from the board? Once again, I forgot to open up a public hearing. I want to make sure the public hearing is open, and I'm about to close it. If there are no other questions.
Beverly's got you covered.
Okay, I know she always does. Okay, so if there are no other further questions, nobody from the public is for this one, other than you. I'm going to close the public hearing.
I'll move we accept the application.
Motion by Michael York to approve the home-based business. Is there any further discussion? Then all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, good luck. You're welcome. Next item will be, and he's setting it there, will be planning board number 23-004, and that's site plan modifications, consultants, or land consultants. On behalf of John Flatley Company, requests modification to their approved site plan. Modifications include addition, recycling center, parking, relocation of the clubhouse, swimming pool area. Property is located at 244 Old Homestead Highway, tax map 19, lot 98, in the Industrial Park District. And we have the plans in front of us here. And I'll open up the public hearing this time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Chad Brannon. I'm a civil engineer with Fieldstone Land Consultants. Our offices are located at 206 Elm Street in Milford, New Hampshire, and 45 Roxbury. We are before you tonight representing John Flatley Company with some site plan modifications. As you may recall, we came before you quite a few months ago to talk about these changes and the magnitude of the changes, and the board felt that it was worthy of coming back for a site plan modifications just because of the number of changes that we were proposing. Just want to go over quickly what we're essentially proposing with this site plan amendment. We received approval on this project back in April of 2022. We had a flex building along the front of the site here. Main entrance is in the same exact location. The clubhouse was located in this location here. We had a fair amount of retaining walls around that clubhouse in particular, and then we also had some retaining walls along north side of building 4. We obtained that approval. The client did send that project out to bid, and because of the way things stand currently with the economy, cost, and supply and demand, the earthwork numbers for this project came in very, very high. So what that resulted in is kind of a reevaluation of the site. The owner took a closer look at it. John Flatley took a much closer look at it, and he said, I really want my arrival, for the residents that are going to be living here to not necessarily drive by this warehouse. One of his project managers thought that doing this warehouse building, the flex building, yeah. Ultimately, when he kind of re-looked at it, he said, I want this to have a good arrival for residents. So that gave us a little bit of flexibility to look at, what can we do to reduce construction costs, reduce some of the impacts, and really start to, kind of take a approach here. So what we did is we took the clubhouse, which was located here, and we moved it up in the front, kind of replacing that flex space building, put the parking on the back side of the building. The front side will be, landscape. And then as you come in, we are proposing that this be really what we're calling the recycling center. This might start as an enclosed dumpster location where we're showing the recycling center now. But this location is a lot better for that because everybody has to drive by there when they're leaving the site. We originally had that proposed up in this location here off the end of building 3, and the residents in buildings 1 and 2 would have to kind of drive internally to get rid of their waste and to leave. So we thought this was a much better layout, and still be, buffered to the other modifications that we made internally are pretty minor. We essentially took one of the garages, like this garage here that was for building 4, was out in front of it. We put it on the side of building 4. What that allowed us to do is move building 4 kind of inward. It gave us more room and separation to some of the wetland areas on the north side, which also allowed us to get rid of the retaining wall. We still have an infiltration system designed on this north side, which will take care of, the majority of all the runoff around building 4 and the parking around building 4. We also shifted, building 3 inward just a little bit to give us a little bit more room. We essentially eliminated all retaining walls on this project with the exception of a small retaining wall here, which is adjacent to a jurisdictional wetland area, just to maintain some separation and buffer there. So that was able to save a lot of costs. Where the clubhouse was before, we're now proposing an infiltration basin to the stormwater management feature. So we're able to do more infiltration because this location is suitable for that. We are not proposing any additional tree cutting, so we're maintaining all of the buffering that we had proposed initially with the approval back in. We are proposing one crossing, additional crossing. We're going to cross the wetland here to get to an isolated upland area where my client would like to do some recreational space. Basically, a tennis court in here. We have potentially a putting green or in a community garden in that area. And that would tie into the recreational trail as well. That's internal. In total, this would be a 1,400 square foot wetland crossing. We had this existing crossing here in the same location as previously approved. That's a 2,000 square foot impact. So in total, it would be 3,400 square feet of wetland impact, which still falls well below any state threshold mitigation or things of that nature. So it's still a minor permit. So what this, I can go through every single bullet item. You might be happy to do that. We've included other amenities like outdoor grill and seating area, which is over on the project side of the pool. Again, there'll be recreational space inside the clubhouse. We talked about before. The big thing here is we're really trying to make some improvements with this site, work with the land a little bit more, reduce the construction costs. I am happy to report that we were just recently informed that DOT will be issuing the permit. For this project, there'll be no off-site improvements required along the highway, and that evaluation included the clubhouse, or included the, the flex space building. So certainly we're going in the right direction from a traffic standpoint. It's going to be reduced slightly. So you know, the numbers there would only be improving as part of this site. We're still maintaining this connection to Safford Drive, which was a recommendation that the board had at during the last review, so that people don't have to exit the site just to take a right on Safford Drive to head, you know, in westerly direction. I think that was really good idea, you know, to make a connection here and allow people to, you know, to leave in a manner that will cause less conflict or less turning. We have designed this entire site to meet alteration and terrain standards. All the stormwater standards are met. We're looking forward to submitting for that permit, but we wanted to come at least to this meeting to make sure that, you know, we had an approved project again before we made that submission to the state. And then we have to make a submission to the Wetlands Bureau for those wetland crossings as well. All of those crossings have been sized to meet their criteria, so we don't anticipate any issues with securing those crossings. And they're required to access isolated areas on the site, so it, you know, there's good justification for those crossings. We tried to cross in every location at the narrowest spot, you know, minimizing impacts and being sensitive. Discussed last time, if everybody remembers, was a big driving factor with this layout. You know, we tried to really meander this layout around the drainage ways and jurisdictional wetlands on this project. And I think everybody, at least last time, was in favor of that, and we're hoping that that's the case again this evening. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have, or at least try to, and we are hopeful to get a conditional approval this evening so that we can really get this project ready for spring construction.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
I have one. I'm wondering how do you calculate the parking? And what I'm really wondering is it really necessary to have different spaces for the pool? Wouldn't it be nice if you could have two?
Yeah, I mean, so how we estimate it is, it's a great question. And we actually have this conversation kind of, you know, with the client. He has a number of other facilities. We kind of shared that with the board the last time we were here. So he does have an idea, you know, if somebody was to use this area for a birthday party, or if there's a, you know, a meeting or some kind of event going on that they may run on occasion for people, you know, any of the elderly people that would live here would likely drive to that event, and so we want to provide that. We're hoping, in really Mr. Flatley's goal with all of his properties is to have a recreational component like this trail, and so he would hope that people would walk there, but we think that, you know, the parking is, you know, 20 spaces is reasonable. 2 of those have to be handicap spaces, so you really have essentially, you know, 18 parking spaces. If the board felt that we wanted a few less there, I'm sure we'd be happy to, you know, take a couple off, but it's generally what we think is reasonable for, you know, sites that he currently has in operation.
The pool is exclusively for use by residents, so there's no intention of making it available.
Absolutely.
Outside
Yeah.
groups.
That's correct. And there is some remote office space in the building for people that live here if they want to leave their apartment and you know, they have a Zoom meeting or, you know, a meeting like tonight and they don't want to be, you know, in an apartment with family, they can come down here. There is a leasing office that's typically in that space, so there would be an employee. And then if there's maintenance, like maintenance staff comes to the site, they would be parking, you know, in this area as well. So it does get, it's not a vacant site. It does get used, you know, differently throughout, and you certainly don't want to discourage people from using that space. There's a little theater in there, in there where they have about a 12-seat theater where, you know, people can go in and watch a movie, and it's a pretty neat space.
I have a question. You said that the pool area is obviously just for the residents. Are they going to have like a key card or something like that to get in there, or what? prevents other people from just moseying around in there?
So the place is staffed, right? So normally there's somebody in the clubhouse like during hours of operation. You know, they haven't had that issue on many of their sites where I think people respect the fact that they don't live there. You know, they don't necessarily come. But you know, I think I've only done one of their facilities that they've actually gone back to a town and said, you know, we really want to, you know, add a gate here so that and make it a gated community. And it was because in that location there was a lot of there was actually through traffic, and so it doesn't exist here, but it's policed in that fashion. And they may, I think sometimes they do put a key card like on the gate entrance where
Yeah, that's
like you
more
got
or
a
less
key in
what
to
I was
get in. Yeah.
wondering about
Yeah.
just the actual pool area. And then, your wetland bridge there, is that just for foot traffic, or is that going to be for like a vehicle or something?
Yeah, this is just for foot traffic here.
No, yeah, that other one isn't.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yes, that actually is for emergency vehicles, you know, so if you're putting a tennis court or recreational space, you have to be able to get there for an emergency vehicle, and you have to be able to actually have it ADA accessible. Somebody in a wheelchair could get down into this space and utilize it. This will be gated, so if somebody internally wanted to utilize that space, they'd have to coordinate. It's really that way to prevent, you know, unwanted traffic.
Where was the bus stop going to be located?
Yeah, so we were talking about the bus stop being located up in this area here before, and that's still a recommended condition, and we haven't reached out to the bus company yet to determine where that could be. With the clubhouse moving down to this location, the goal would be to maybe utilize the clubhouse actually as a bus stop. We would have to coordinate that with the school. They might decide that they want, now that we have this two connection, they might decide that they would, you know, drive through here because it doesn't really change their route and pick up any kids internally, which would be safer. But we ultimately will, you know, we're happy to address that as a condition.
We would strongly encourage them to utilize that internal, where you could use the, as you say, the clubhouse as for poor weather or whatever, where the kids could go in and wait for the bus.
That's our hope. I mean, we don't have complete control over that. We're kind of at their mercy to some extent, but we're gonna push for that, Mr. Lane. So I think we're in agreement.
The biggest thing that a bus company will look at a bus driver is your line of sight's got to be, because if you're on Safford Drive, my memory is, as a bus driver, I would not want to put one by that entrance. I'd rather put it internally or on Route 32 there.
Yeah.
So you have a line of sight, so it's safer, so people can see the lights when they come on to pick up the children.
Absolutely. Yep, I don't disagree with that. So this intersection has superior line of sight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would say yes.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not the manager over there. Well, she's supposed to actually coordinate that with the police chief.
Sure.
The police chief actually has the last say on that.
Well, we're going to learn more about that as we go, but we're going to obviously, you know, do it in the location that they want, which will be presumably the safest spot. So.
Did you go to sheet, let's see, SP1? That's the site layout for this plan west. So we're, you know, you've put the, I think 18 parking spaces behind that 10-bay garage there.
Yep.
Right there. And I'm just wondering if it might make sense if you consider putting a walkthrough to that 10-bay garage. People maybe from this building might be parking out there at some point, and they have to walk all the way around, down here, over here, to get to the building. If they had a walkthrough to that garage, they'd come right from that parking lot, or down to the parking bay.
Yeah, we would prefer not to do that because the garages, the center of the garages are actually the ADA spots for that. But what we, this really isn't that far of a walk if you take a look at other internal areas. And then one thing we could do, like that's a similar walk to, like these or over in here to there. But what we could do, and I think it's a good point, we could put a path on this side so that it'd be maybe the most direct route to the.
That might not be a bad idea, because it would be shorter that way if there was lighting over on that side, though.
Yeah, we could put we do have light here on this parking lot, but we'd be happy to put one more building mounted light maybe on this gable side. And then we'd be happy to entertain that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And the sewer commission, I know, mentioned about manholes or where the connection is from the building and the lines there. Yep. Planning to do that? Or
Absolutely.
You're gonna readjust the man, because you have manholes in there, I know they're in here. But there's one that is, I know. So you might be able to adjust the existing manholes in there to accommodate some of those perhaps, or I know. Utility plan, or the UT1. I'm on UT1 anyway, so I don't know which one you're on. You're on the other one. You're on the east side of the line. Yeah, you've got from building, I guess that's building 1, isn't it? The one down there is not numbered, but I think that's building 1 that you're pointing out right there. Yep. And you've got, let's see, a manhole right on that corner right there, and one on the other corner. So are you intending on putting one right where that sewer comes out into that?
I think we'll adjust the service to, like, we can adjust the service line coming out of the building.
You can bring it into the other existing manhole back there?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd make sense instead of having more in there, just so that it did come into a manhole as far as, jetting and cleaning and that type of stuff.
Yeah, and we did get that comment. Ultimately, we have to work with the sewer commission on a sewer discharge permit for this. So they're going to review it and sign off on it. And so we definitely plan on making some adjustments to address that.
And there's just one small little gray area, and that would be on the next sheet there. And that's up by, is that building number 4, all the way to the right, that one there. There's a, it looks not even like a 22.5, you've got a bend in it right there. Is that gonna be a manhole in it right there? You see where the line comes out of the building?
Yes.
Small little angle right there.
So you're allowed a certain amount of deflection in the sewer line over a run. So we're not planning on that being a manhole, but we can.
You're gonna deflect the pipe.
We can.
You're not gonna put a fitting, you're gonna deflect it.
Right, yeah, but that'll be a straight run. In fact, we can make that a little more obvious. We try to stay away from manholes if we can. They're about $5,000 a piece, and my client grades us kind of poorly if we.
Yeah, you don't put them in there willy-nilly, you're right. And if you just go, I don't see here, there's a details page on the pool in the building and the new recreation building. I think it's a detail. I just wanted to turn that page and just explain the fence and stuff around the pool. Pretty sure I saw it in these drawings the other day, I was looking at them.
Maybe a landscape design. So I know that when we actually met with staff to talk about the fencing around the pool, and staff mentioned they would really like to see it be a black fence of some kind, like a vertical aluminum fence, and we did look at it with the client, and we were, they said that they would be happy to provide, that style fencing, so. Oh, and the profile.
I know I mentioned somewhere in there a pergola. Is that what these two little brick units are going to be down in here?
So this is kind of the pergola in here.
Oh, right.
It's off the end of the building.
I think it's right in there. Okay, right off the side, right by the pool there. I've got it right there. And it does show a fence right around that pool there.
Completely fenced in.
State law requires you to do that too, as well as this, Swanzey has an ordinance also.
Absolutely.
So you're keeping that hickory tree there. There are several of them there, aren't there? Or just keeping one hickory tree? I'm just noticing it keeps out. I know that in your landscape plan, it shows trees out in here. I don't know whether you-
Yeah, so to meet the alteration of terrain stormwater standards, we unfortunately, I say unfortunately, just because it results in additional impact. We're doing an infiltrate, like a very shallow infiltration area.
Oh, I see.
That's what that ID 101 is.
Okay.
So that's going to be kind of a manicure area. And then we're proposing landscaping along the road, with some street trees and such out there. Very similar to what we were proposing before. That's to meet the local standards, but I can almost guarantee you there's going to be more landscaping in this zone as a result of Mr. Flatley, really likes to dress up the area around the clubhouse. Yeah.
Those are probably all the questions I think that I had on it.
How about, well, you have that up at the recycling center as far as shielding that, landscaping and screening? So-
Yeah, so we show a tree line, around here. This is our limited clearing, so there's all the existing trees will remain on this, this north side here. And then we kind of tucked it in. This is a forested wetland here, so there's obviously a lot of woods there. And then this is all forested area here. So it's going to be, shielded
Good.
really well.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Did you say that there's going to be a walking trail between the apartments and the pool?
There is a recreational trail that we are proposing throughout the site, so yes.
So if people wanted to walk to the pool, or the kids wanted to walk to the bus stop, they'd be able to do that easily without having to go all.
Well, they could walk down. The roadway's been designed to be very wide, so they can certainly walk down the entrance or the access road, or they could take that trail if they so choose. Yeah.
Have to get to the bus stop, or want to walk to the pool.
Yeah, a lot of times we see, parents will drop their children off down here, which is another reason why we have, parking down by the clubhouse.
Right, yeah, if they're on their way out in the morning or
Yeah.
something, that makes sense, but it's also nice to be able to.
Encourage them walking down.
Yeah.
I agree.
The walking trail mainly goes around the main part of the complex there. It
Yeah,
doesn't go
that's what I
through
thought, yeah.
that wetland area down there, so yeah, they could walk right down the road to the bus stop. Any other questions from the board?
Were there any changes to your snow storage areas? Or everything's pretty much the same?
We maintained all the snow storage areas. We have more, storage area, obviously, because the clubhouse was here before. So along that perimeter, we have more area there, but we've maintained everything.
You say your interior road's going to be wide, right? So people are going to be walking, are there going to be sidewalks on the edge of the
We're
road?
not proposing sidewalks, no.
Maybe instead of putting sidewalks in, maybe you could take a portion and mark it off as pedestrian.
We
You see what I'm saying?
We could stripe like
Yeah.
a fog line or something,
Yeah.
along this entrance way to bring
Right.
it down.
Just so like a little safe zone from there. Plus, the little kids are probably going to be riding their bikes in there once in a while too, so,
Definitely look at that.
yeah, we appreciate it.
Only danger of that might be if somebody thinks it is a breakdown lane, they might park there.
But we would normally make it, probably 3 or 4 feet,
Right.
so it's not gonna be wide enough for someone to, if you're right, if we made it too wide, they would think it's
Right.
an escape area.
There are a couple of signs explaining what it is. So,
Yeah.
Or even mark it as a bike lane,
But yeah, they'll put
bike
like,
pedestrian lane.
yeah, with bike painting.
We don't wanna go,
No, we're not trying-
It's a little finicky on like painting the
Right.
road and
Right.
stuff. We'll hang a nice looking sign and
Right.
happy to put,
Yeah, we're
We'll
not
get the
trying to put
idea.
any extra cost on it, we're trying to think about its safety.
yeah. Well, I think that what you typically have here, we have a lot of staff, they police the speed limit, pretty extensively on their properties. You really have, everything in here is really parking lot. Talking primarily about this section here, I think. So I don't disagree, we can come up with a plan that would address that. And my job is to stamp plans that are safe, so I appreciate the comments. And we'll be happy to address that.
Okay, so, let's see, I'm just gonna run down the snow storage area, Richard, that you were talking about also. Note 25 on the drawings say snow storage will be provided along the edge of all access ways and parking. So that's an addition to on the plan.
Okay.
So the conditions that we approved, are there any more questions on the plan? Or I'm just going to run the conditions that we approved it with. And that was submission to the town staff and review by the planning board of drawings for the actual industrial flex building to be built. It's not going to be built anymore, so that's all. And indicate the location of the school bus stop on the plan. We spoke about that. Down there. That'll be a compliant issue. It's not. And, indicate the type and height of barriers around the pool areas and retaining walls on the flat. We talked about the pool area and mentioned retaining walls. There are not that many anymore on the flat. Indicate height of all retaining walls on the flat, which that's still a condition of the last one. So you'll.
It's detailed in there, but we're happy to leave it and
Yeah.
and you know, staff can review it with the final plans.
Sewer connection manholes are to be shown for each building. We'll just discuss that. Indicate snow storage areas on the plan. We'll talk about that. And then permits, New Hampshire DOT driveway permit for safe Route 32 access, Federal Aviation Administration permit. Town driveway permit for Safford Drive entrance. NHDES wetland permit, DES operation of terrain permit, intent to cut permit, NHDES sewer discharge permit, and other copy of the agreement with the Swanzey Public Works Director for improvement of Safford Drive. That's what we had approved originally. So, the staff recommendations, I think they're about the same. Indicate, these are staff recommendations for approving with the conditions. Indicate location of the school bus stop. Let's talk about that. Indicate the type and height of barriers around the pool areas, retaining walls. All retaining walls on the plan. About that. Sewer connection manholes be shown for each 10 and junction. Indicate some sewer areas in the back. We'll talk about that. So, anything else you can think of? Board members? Or is you might have been through the whole thing, the modifications, there's a lot there, but it's all, you know, pretty straightforward, easy modification, pretty straightforward to see what they're doing there, why they're doing it, and it really doesn't change the whole layout of everything. That's something that I think that dumpster, if we remove from down there, is better, put up where the second building is. Any other questions about, or any other conditions? No. We can just, yep.
Are they going to entertain putting speed bumps into there at all?
They do not do that. It's a real maintenance issue, to be honest, for plowing.
I know.
Absolutely. They'd rather wait until you have to pick them all off and then store them. Okay. They'll give out a lot of speeding tickets, that's the way to handle that.
When I was 16, that meant accelerate.
Airborne.
Okay, so if there are no other recommendations for additions, then we can either give you the option of approving the modifications with conditions and coming back for compliance hearings, or we can keep the hearing open to the next meeting if you think that you'll get those conditions on the flat.
Which ones are the compliance items?
The ones for a compliance hearing, it would be indicate the location of the school bus stop on the plat, indicate the type and height of the barriers around the pool area, retaining walls.
I think we would prefer just the compliance hearing. That way we can submit for our state approval, and we'll give us some time to reach out to the bus company.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, then no other questions, then I'm going to close the public hearing. So those are the conditions that we talked about. Any other discussion on it? If not, a motion to approve with those conditions would be in order.
So moved.
A motion by Michael York to approve the site plan modifications to the Flatley development, including these conditions. Make sure I didn't miss any. Indicate the location of the school bus stop on the plaque. Indicate the type and height of barriers around the pool access, pool areas and retaining walls on the plaque. Indicate height of all retaining walls on the plaque. Sewer connection manholes are to be shown for each bend and junction. Actually, they are, but anyways. That one indicates snow storage areas on the plaque. That was already there anyway, so that's the one. Sewer connection manholes, that's it. Sewer connection manholes are to be shown for each building. That one as well. So those are the conditional approvals that you have to come back. And the other ones are the administrative ones, which would be New Hampshire DOT driveway permit for State Route 32 access. And these are listed down, Beverly, and you have them on
128.
Federal Aviation permit, town driveway permit for Stafford Drive, New Hampshire DES wetlands permit, DES alteration and terrain permit, detention hut permit, DES sewage storage permit, provide a copy of the agreement. This one's Department of Public Works, record for improvements in Stafford Drive. Those are the conditions. And
I'm just wondering, Chad mentioned that we would be ultimately indicating the landscaping on the street side of the pool area. I mean, if we should ask that to be shown.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
probably going to do it anyway, but we could ask it.
The landscaping on the pool side, on Route 32 side of the pool is what you're asking.
Yes.
And you were going to do that anyways. I know.
I mean, we technically meet the regulations with the landscaping plan that we have on here.
And it's shown already. It's shown already on the landscaping plan, but actually, yeah, public hearing is closed anyway, but still. We have a landscaping plan here. Yeah, let me just, and it's already on there. I saw it earlier.
So it hasn't, the landscaping hasn't changed with the elimination of the building.
No. Getting close. There it is. Oh, not that. There's right there, LS1.
It should be
LS1, isn't it?
C12.
Okay, right there, LS1. Okay, there we go.
So we have the street trees out in front. I mean, we are going to be proposing some additional landscaping closer to the pool area. I mean, we would be happy to add that to the plan if that's.
Yeah, I think we should condition that, it should be shown, you know, so we know what we're starting with.
Well, if they meet the requirements of the trees per, I guess, footage on there, then yeah, if you intend to put the landscape in front of the pool, then just add it in there for the conditional part of it. But
We would be happy to add some in there. I just, if all possible, Mr. Chairman, it's not, there's no actual additional requirement other than us. We'll just show additional landscaping in there.
Yep, sure what you intend to put in there, good on the plan.
So, can I just have clarification? Is that a request or a condition?
That's not a condition because they meet the requirements. It's a request. There they are. So we have a motion on the floor, motion by Michael, right? Who was the second by? Brandon? Are you the second, Brandon? Okay, and any further discussion? And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, then you'll have to schedule a compliance hearing at some point and table that.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have some discussion items here. That's the last one there. And the first up on discussion items is ex parte communications, and included in our packet memo about that. And has everybody read that? This is good stuff to go over, because I've never gone over it with the board here or anything, but we should from time to time go over it, because it's easy to forget about it. It's easy to run into somebody at the dump or something like that and start talking about a site plan or something that we're doing. But we're not actually supposed to talk in general terms as to, when the meeting's going to be, things like that, in general terms as to what it is. But we're just supposed to make sure that we don't really present it in such a way that we've already made up our minds. Basically, it's best just to say, come on, or sit on Zoom or something like that.
Or they could email or write a letter to the whole board.
To the board, yeah.
Right, instead of one person.
Yeah, I think for that, if they do write it to one person, then.
Could be Sarah.
Yes, it's best if it comes from me, because then I can add it to the packet and make it, the thing with ex parte is really, in addition to what Scott was saying, is the purpose of the public hearing is so that the board can participate, the applicants can participate, the abutters can participate, others can participate, and all of the information is accessible to everybody. But if there's a conversation that's happening about an application outside of this venue, not everybody can participate. And so that's the violation, whether it's social media, dump, the grocery store, whether it's calling, I don't know, an outside expert. Like if you want to have outside opinions coming in, invite them to the public hearing, or invite them to write a memo that can be submitted to the public record so that everything is part of the public record.
And if somebody does write you an email or something on it, I would say just to forward it to you, so it can be just broadcast out to the whole rest of the board at the meeting or in a packet. Anyways, because that will happen. I'm sure you're going to see me write an email saying, hey, what's up with this or that, and just forward it on. Don't necessarily answer it, just forward it on.
Yeah, and you can answer, I'm going to forward this on.
Oh yeah, that.
But don't.
But you don't want to answer into it.
Yeah, don't answer into it, because then it becomes a private conversation and you're breaking the law.
Yeah, and it gets tricky, and you can't really think of it all the time. Sometimes you get, you wouldn't even realize it was going on. Brandon didn't participate in the other meeting we had because that issue had been closed because we voted on it. But then when we voted to, not rehear it, but just to take another look at it, that meant that it was actually open again. But not knowing it, you were doing some Facebook stuff with it, talking about it, thinking that it's closed, but legally it wasn't closed. So that was the reason why he recused himself and didn't come to the meeting, didn't vote on it, because it could have been seen as he had his mind already made up and before it was finalized. It had been finalized, but then when we decided to rehear it, it wasn't finalized. So that's another tricky thing, it's an odd thing. I wouldn't have thought of it, no. Lawyer thought of it,
Are you referring to Homestead Ave, Homestead Highway?
I'm referring to
The airport.
The airport. If we ask for an opinion from an outside individual, as long as we bring that up and is voiced in the meeting, is that covered?
No, you're not supposed to discuss it all.
No,
Right, and it
I'm
should
not
go-
saying, I'm just asking for background
It
information.
should go through Sarah, right?
Yeah, it should go through Sarah. You could ask someone to contact Sarah with an opinion on something or with an evaluation on something, but you really shouldn't be discussing it with the person. They give you a evaluation, then give it to Sarah. That's where it comes in, where no one else had privy to that conversation you're having with that professional. Yep. So if we're looking at something like someone knows someone who wants to, do an assessment. We're talking about the assessment, right? You talked to someone about an assessment on that.
I asked two different individuals with real estate history what their opinion would be if something like that would go up.
And that's considered ex parte because you started to discuss it with another person about something that was ongoing with the planning board. Instead of saying, would you mind contacting Sarah and telling her your opinion of this such and such, whatever it happens to be. Then it's not ex parte because you're just giving them, Sarah does it, and then she puts it out to the residents.
Okay, so we cannot be the conduit to her.
Sort of.
Well, you might want to be careful about soliciting opinions and then bringing it to Sarah, because that would be another thing that would almost be ex parte. You kind of, if you want to have an opinion like that, you should do it as a board and ask Sarah to contact somebody and get the information.
Do it
So,
during the public hearing with the board.
Yeah.
And then I can bring in different types of professionals, opinions, whatnot, and invite them to come to the meeting so that they can answer questions, they can respond to the applicants and all of that. The other thing that I would add to this, and this isn't exactly ex parte, but it's kind of in line with it, be careful with your language overall and how you present publicly on applications, because how you view an application, if it's very public, after it's closed and we get another similar application down the road, that can come back to bite us. So just, I don't know.
Give us an example.
Well, I think what she's referring to is me, and that I said, I don't like, I asked the lawyer that, though, he told me I could say that as long as it was in a planning board meeting.
In a planning
Like I
board,
said,
okay.
he said, you can say any of that stuff that you want as long as it's in the planning board meeting. So I specifically said, you mean that I can say it's big, ugly, and I don't like it? And he says, yeah, absolutely.
But as long as it's
As
here.
long as it's in the planning board meeting.
And we should check, like, it's possible if you've said it in the meeting, I think if you said it in the meeting, you're also allowed to say the same thing outside of the meeting. It's already part of the record, correct me if I'm.
I think you're probably right, but it's best not to.
Yes.
Well, going back to what the sequence was that in the previous meeting with Chad, I had mentioned the appraisal factor, referencing the 2020. And then after that, it's in the record, but after that, that's when I asked individuals what they felt might be the implication of something like that being there. So legally, I guess it's covered, but discretion should have been different.
Yeah, it would have been best if the board had spent more time addressing that and made a decision as a board to seek third party or other opinions or whatnot.
We were kind of against the time limit on that, so we really couldn't go any further.
Plus, it was a ZBA decision, so we really couldn't,
it was a court decision.
well, court decision, but the court told the ZBA, that's your
know.
decision.
So this is all good stuff to keep with us. Good stuff to review every once in a while, just to remind ourselves.
This is just something related to that project and talking about court decisions. And I thought I heard someone say that one of the people on the jury or among the judges, and this is some curiosity I'd like to not have in the minute. Was there actually one of the people who would have been sitting who recused herself because she works for the firm that represents the developer? Then why was there not an alternate to fill that seat? And they only had 4 people, and it was a tie, so our town lost. That's my opinion.
The Supreme Court doesn't have alternates.
Well, I don't know if they, do you know for a fact that they don't? Because I would like to find out if they.
Superior Court can have another judge sit in, that's a Superior Court judge, but the Supreme Court is made up of certain justices, whether it be the state or the federal. And
that's
they're
a
the only
pretty
ones that can
rotten
sit
deal.
on a case. Well, that's the way it is.
Maybe that's the case
You'd have
for
to
some
change
new
it.
legislation.
You'd have to change it, no, it'd have to go through a constitutional amendment.
Because, well, we'll see.
Well, the Constitution tells you how many sittings.
Because that certainly was not fair. It wasn't fair. And in a way, I wouldn't really have cared a heck of a lot if we'd gone back to court, because maybe they could have had 5 people there. You know, it was a rotten deal.
And where you could be impartial, I can't believe the Superior Court judge couldn't be impartial.
Right. She didn't have the ability.
Remember, now you have the danger of the land use board too, because of the developer can go to the land use board instead of the Superior Court. What they're made up of.
Right, I gave you the Concom memo.
Oh, you did give them to me, and I did read them, and I picked up my bag and
And you forgot
ripped
it.
something out
There you go.
and left all that at home.
Okay, next up are rules of procedure amendments.
I'm actually wondering if I can interrupt you and rearrange our schedule a little bit, because we have
Sherry here.
speak about the Concom. That's,
Okay.
am I correct, Sherry?
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Here you go.
What's to say that you passed out?
I have. Okay.
That's it. Gotta get my copy out here.
Got another one.
You have another one?
Yep.
So you want to discuss the, this is for our site plan review regulations, the comments.
Yeah, Sarah suggested tonight would be a good night to just start taking a look at that.
Yeah. Everyone has a copy of that, right? And what the, I wasn't expecting that we're going to look at that, so.
The house is with the post.
So what Jay and I did was, you can see the normal text is what was already there, and then the old text is proposed additions. And those are taken basically, other than what Scott had already written, which is anything else in there. Those are taken from the proposed ordinance that was done in 2018. Yeah. So we pulled out parts of that seemed like they would be helpful and were not already covered in the regulations as they exist. And we kind of rearranged it, like under pollution control on the second page, you can see it made sense to us to have general standards for normal places in town that were not on the aquifer versus specific standards for places that happen to sit on the aquifer.
This is, let's see, still on the first page here, just so you can all see the changes on there. We got to go right down them, I think, from page 1. Down on through. And the first proposal is on any property where land disturbing activities are taking place, all inactive wells not used or properly maintained at the time the site work plan is submitted shall be considered abandoned and must be sealed by the well owner in accordance with the most current version of New Hampshire Water Well Board rules, WE 4. That's just to protect, again, the aquifer, right? And so that nothing is going to go down an existing well, I guess is what that's for.
Dogs falling in? Yes.
Well, you know,
Yeah, it seems like a public safety
you know,
issue.
Lassie's getting kind of tired of Timmy falling down the well, so.
Thank you.
I saw that. Yeah.
Let's see. Comments on that? Do you have any comments on that, Sharon? It's pretty self-explanatory, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that just seemed to fit there. So.
Okay, the next one would be under the stormwater drainage, and the new one would be for any use that will render impervious more than 15% or more than 2,500 square feet of any lot, or greater, stormwater management plan shall be prepared, which the planning board determines is consistent with the current version of New Hampshire Stormwater Management Plan 1-3. I don't know that we haven't had a 15% or any percentage, I don't think, or square footage of disturbed area, I don't think, on any of that, or not disturbed, impervious, any of that. We do, of course, have stormwater management plans when we do the site plans. That's part of the whole thing.
Right.
Any comments on that?
So this would make us consistent with state requirements? Is that or state recommendations?
Well, these were pulled out of the groundwater ordinance, which was taken from the state template for protecting the aquifer. So that's why we pulled these.
And this one is meant to be put in the, where the aquifer part of it is, or you've got it in
Well,
general
I
standards?
had some questions about that. So some, you know, I can't claim to be an expert in stormwater management, so I don't know if it makes more sense to have this in sort of the general standards versus having it be a specific standard to the aquifer.
Because it's intended, of course, to preserve or save the aquifer from any potential damage to it, so.
And Jay might have had a different comment on that. I'm not sure why. I think this was his suggestion to put it in the regular stormwater drainage part.
I don't know, I would think that it should be under the specific standards where there's an aquifer.
And that's,
And that's the next one under specific standards there.
yeah, so you could create a section there to just say specific.
And number 3 under there should be a designated area for snow accumulation and or snow dumps from outside sources. As far as I know, we don't allow that. It's not what you'd call an allowable use to bring in snow from other areas.
Anywhere in
of the
town.
That I know, I think it'd have to be in the site plan regs that it's not, or in the zoning ordinance, it's an allowable use.
If it's already not allowable in town, then I guess it doesn't make sense to have it there. And I guess you have to define outside sources too, because are we talking about from outside town, or are we just talking about from outside where
Property,
development is?
right.
It's not really clear there.
In either case, it has come up in the past in the planning board, I recall, about snow storage in other places, and it has not been allowed. And I think it's because you're using a piece of land like an industry, or you're
Dumping.
creating a business out of it, and you're charging someone to dump their snow there. It's a use, so it's not listed in all uses, but I know.
So because it's not listed, that automatically means it's not allowed. Can't do
But, yeah, if it's not there, you can.
Well, excuse me, but back on number 2, if we make that specific to an area on an aquifer, should we not think of bodies of groundwater as well?
That is an aquifer, isn't it?
Right, that's the aquifer protection, and that's what we found out, is pretty much the whole town is an aquifer.
Well, it is, that's
So
what I'm
that's
thinking,
why
but I mean, if
we
you
need-
put a big parking lot by the lake, a lake, any lake, or body of water, or too near a river, even if you have a water system, if you say you have a system under it, there's still going to be runoff. Not a cascade like a waterfall or anything, but over a period of years, it will affect the water bodies around it.
But we do, like in this plan here, we do make them have a drainage plan on any scale like that. But I don't know
Yeah.
about 2,500 feet impervious surface. That seems a little low to me. I don't know. Might be a little restricted. We might have to think about that. It could be in the, if there's an actual aquifer and it's been determined that there could be damage to the aquifer underneath, then that section to look at it. But they would have a stormwater management plan in there anyway.
Okay.
But it still could be noted in there. Might have to look at 15% or 2,500 to see what that's really going to impact or how it's going to impact. But it can be something like that. And then specific standards and, let's see, I'll just read it right.
This is under pollution control, so that's letter I at the top of the page. And, you know, I mean, the way you're gonna arrange all this certainly remains to be seen, but we just kind of tried to do it in a way that made sense to us.
So we have specific standards, and this is what we were considering before.
Yes.
That said, if
You wrote the first part of that.
after review and comment by the Conservation Commission, the planning board determines that potential damage to an underlying aquifer or wellhead protection area would result from the proposed use, then the following additional items may be required by the planning board. Data reports prepared by a professional engineer or qualified groundwater consultant to assess any potential damage to underlying aquifers or wellhead protection areas from the proposed use. Planning board may engage any professional assistance as is required to adequately evaluate any submitted reports, and the cost of any such assistance shall be paid by the applicant. The stormwater management and pollution prevention plans to include all of this: minimum stormwater discharge setbacks between water supply wells, wellhead protection areas, and any contaminated soils. A source control plan that would minimize the release of pollutants and would identify pollution prevention measures. Now, these are the ones the Conservation Commission is adding in. If there will be transfers of petroleum from delivery trucks and storage containers over 5 gallons capacity, there must be an impervious surface having a positive limiting barrier PLLC at its perimeter. Outdoor storage areas for regulated substances, associated material, or waste must be protected from exposure to precipitation and must be located at least 50 feet from surface water, or storm drains at least 75 feet from private wells and outside the sanitary protected radius of wells used by public water systems. Number 3, secondary containment must be provided for outdoor storage of regulated substances in regulated containers, and the containment structure must be constructed in such a way to minimize the accumulation of water in the containment area and contact between precipitation and storage containers. So let's see, we had something we had before dealt with some of that. Let's see, the first one, the number 1 there about the transfers of petroleum, actually diesel fuels, and this we're talking about delivery trucks. We could have that in there, and we could say that you can't do it. You have to fuel trucks outside rather than even have it in there. You know?
Yes.
Some places, I'm sure, say that, yeah, you have to fuel your trucks outside. You drive outside, you're going to fuel it. Or that could be in there as long as they had the limiting barrier. The outdoor storage areas of regulated substances. That would be dependent on my hand. That's we'd have to identify what the regulated substances were, though.
Yeah, I think, does that mean state regulated substances?
I think we're opening up a big can of worms there.
Well, I think there was definitions in the ordinance of what these things were.
In our ordinance?
No, I mean in the original proposed ordinance, so I think we could come up with a list. I think there is a definition for that.
I remember looking at that list, and it was like, I don't know how long it was. It was pages.
It's all stuff you don't want your groundwater.
Well, of course it is, but
Yeah.
it was way too much. There was a lot there. That would be a problem, I think, if we just left it general regulated substances. We have to think about that one. Secondary containment, outdoor storage of regulated substances. Again, it's the regulated substances. We'd be better off specifying what we're talking about, fuel and things like that. Plans to maintain vertical separation, that was already in it. Separation between the bottom of the stormwater infiltration area and the average seasonal high water table as determined by a licensed hydrologist, soil scientist, engineer, or other qualified professional shown by the planning board. And let's see, these are additions. An approved plan for blasting activities. All activities related to blasting shall be performed in accordance with current New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services blast and best management practices to prevent contamination of groundwater. These include preparing, reviewing, and following the blasting plan, proper drilling, disposal, handling, and loading procedures, observing the entire blasting procedures, evaluating blast performance, and handling and storage of blasted rock. Yeah, we didn't have anything about blasting in there.
And we took this was a very brief piece from, I'm trying to think which town it was. Jay came up with, it was a whole blasting ordinance from a town nearby that had like pages of material, and this was a sort of succinct little summary from what that was, but it was pages of here's what you do and don't do in a gravel pit.
A lot of regulation there, yeah.
Yeah,
So that one,
but a lot of it referred back to state regulations anyways.
yeah, and we didn't touch on blasting at all, so that definitely could mess up an aquifer. Let's see, next one, proposed storage areas for animal manures, fertilizers, and compost in compliance with the current manual best management practices for agriculture and New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, Markets and Food. And we did mention something in there. Maybe it was you left out E, F, and G. I don't have a copy of that here, but I think we mentioned something about animal manures in there as well. So that could be added to part of this, or this could be added to that, whichever. For the animal manures, storage of manures. The next one is a spill control and countermeasure plan for regulated substances. Again, we got the regulated substances there. It's going to trouble us, which shall be submitted to the Swanzey Fire Chief or other official designated. We shall determine whether the plan will prevent, contain, and minimize release from ordinary or catastrophic events such as spills, floods, or fires that cause large release of substances.
So this part went on for a little time, but I kind of looked at that and thought, is that close to what we already have in B number 2 about the source control plan? You know, something that maybe is one and the same, I'm not sure. So something else to think about.
That one might be a bit much for this site plan review regulations.
Should we address geothermal in here somewhere too?
And in what regard, like,
Not allow open systems, make sure they're closed. I don't know if it's a state law or not, but
I didn't come across that.
geothermal, they drill wells and then they capture the heat or coolness. So.
yeah, and there'd probably be more than just a small paragraph about it, though, wouldn't you think?
Hopefully the state's addressed it, but.
So, any discussion on these, what we just read? Board members?
There's a great, some of you probably get it too, from CCCD, the County Conservation District, sends out periodic notices of things they're going to be offering. And they have done a big operation up at the Britton Farm in Walpole. And on their latest email, which I think I got yesterday morning, it explains how they take care of large supply of manure and how to deal with it. I couldn't tell you the particulars, but if you'd like it, I can forward it to you. It's really interesting from a conservation standpoint.
I think this one references the manure. References best management practices for agriculture in New Hampshire, Department of Agriculture, Markets and Food. So there must be something in there.
I believe so, yeah. I'm not sure, I mean, one of the problems that I think we talked about before with doing it this way is that I'm not sure you catch an issue with manure. I mean, how many farmers come to you to get a site review permit,
Yeah, right.
Or sporting facility. most
Something
likely.
like that,
Yeah, where there would be a site plan probably to show the arrangement of the structures and if there's adjacent water.
Yeah.
I think one in the last 10 years.
But yes, some don't, and currently that field that sits right behind the mold probe company out there, there's 100 acres out there. And every year they spread cow manure there. And
Yeah.
apparently they can, it's not a problem. There's an aquifer right underneath there.
Equine or bovine, you can spread.
Yeah, there's a lot of water under that field.
The thing is, especially with equine, it is mostly nitrogen, okay? and cellular. And those what the soil actually wants. So as long as you're not spreading, like on our property, we have a small brook that's kind of seasonal, but runs down through the middle of the two pastures. We make sure we don't spread anything that's within 200 feet of that brook.
They spread it right up to the river.
Huh? Well, I know they do.
Right up to the.
I do, this is my practice.
You're right.
Because I have neighbors down there, and I don't want somebody to go out there and see a donkey dung going down the brook, you know.
It is, and they're the ones who have this field.
Yeah, and they've got one of those systems that I think Jane's talking about, it's got the massive,
Looks like an indoor arena.
well, the manure collection. thing
Yes, that's what it
inside.
is.
Yeah.
Like a digester or something.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, they're state of the art, if you're, yeah, but in terms of your collection and management.
Well, they spray it from there, they take the solid manure and they dump it in piles there, and then they spread it out. And then what you're talking about, they spray it behind the big truck on the field afterwards.
Yeah, I know that stuff smells like bovine, it's even broken down further than the equine is, because they have the cows have a more effective digestive system with the two stomachs versus an equine only has one.
Back on this, I know I'm slow, but like, where it talks about, like petroleum, transfers of petroleum from delivery trucks, I didn't know what that meant, okay? So that's talking about gassing up or fueling up, you know, putting fuel into.
You've got bulldozers and you've got a fuel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, am I thinking of that right?
I got it, okay, thank you.
So let's possibly move that number 2, which is about the impervious surface. Think about moving it underneath the
Specific?
standards for the aquifer, and also talk to some people, do some research on the 15% and the 2,500 feet, to see where that came from, see what that means, what that will mean. And also,
I'm not following you, Scott.
so
The 15%, I understand it, you would,
yeah, it says 15% or more than 2,500 square feet of the impervious.
right?
And it would require a stormwater management plan. So I just want to see, maybe talk to some engineers, code enforcement guy, and that
Do
type of
more
stuff.
research.
To see what they're saying about it, and how many, more or less, or whatever it should be, or could be.
Got it.
And then we can fine tune that and move it underneath maybe the specific standards. Yeah, the transfers one there, we could either leave that there or say there are no transfers at all. Either way. It doesn't hurt anything to leave it there, we could leave it there.
Talking about number 3.
I'm talking about on B, the second page, it says, if there will be transfers of petroleum from delivery trucks. Yeah, we're just talking about.
Okay,
I
yeah.
have a question about that, though. Would that pertain to, we'll say, before Market Basket was built, we'll say wooded area or whatever, maybe that's a bad example, but if they're gonna be clear cutting and having their bulldozers and stuff like that, that's not gonna allow them to fuel up on that property, that they're gonna have to load up that bulldozer on a flatbed and then drive to the nearest gas station to fill it up and then drive back. Like most of those people, they'll have like Swanzey Oil or somebody come there and fuel up their equipment, or they might have a giant skid tank that they leave right on the property, and again, have somebody like Swanzey Oil fill up that, and then they fill up their individual bulldozers or skid steers, whatever it may pertain to. So if I'm reading that correctly, that's gonna prevent them from doing that.
Actually, number 1 would allow them to do it, but only if they had some kind of a barrier, positive limiting barrier, they call it, at its perimeter, impervious surface. What it's saying, and again, this is under the specific standards, if it's determined that a spill could ruin or potentially harm an aquifer or a wellhead protection area underneath it, then these things come into, they would be able to refuel, but they'd have to be on some kind of impervious surface. They have to move that bulldozer over there, or if it's portable, I don't know how to do that.
But that would be more of a temporary issue, I think. This, I think, would be if somebody's running a scrapyard or something, they have the impervious surface with the barrier, and that's where they do their fueling up, because it's an ongoing.
Then you got farms that will have to put some kind of impervious barrier down, because most farms that I've ever seen wouldn't have that. You gotta have a tank out there, and it gets filled up, and then when they're done with their tractor and they need to fuel it, they go right up to the tank, and it's usually just bare ground there. Well, it's not impervious. I mean, if they had a spill, it would go into the ground. But then you're asking the farmer to put in more money for operation, so how many are actually going to come to the board and do that? I don't have the problem, because my tractor only carries 5 gallons at a time, so under this, I wouldn't have to worry about it too much. And I do it in my garage anyway, so that is the cement floor, so I guess it's.
Sounds like you need to submit an application for this operation.
No, I don't, because I fueled it inside the garage, which is an impervious cement floor.
No cracks in it.
If we're going to put that in there, I think we ought to define what we're talking about, and not that 40-page CFR one there. We ought to define if we're talking about, I don't know what you'd expect.
You might be able to just reference the DES list of regulated substances or something. Right.
Yeah, and I wonder how the state being founded on farming, really, what regulations are in there for the farmers. Farmers can get away with a lot of things that most people can't.
Without them, you don't eat.
That's true.
So let's look at those more, I guess, number 2 and 3, and see exactly what we're talking about there. It has to do with the regulated substances. Blasting, we covered that, because we hadn't had that in there at all, and blasting. So, animal manure one, we have it somewhere else in there, I'm sure. I don't have my copy of it. I wasn't bringing it with me tonight, but there was more that we addressed that, so we should combine those two with the animal manures here, and that's something else about. So we'll have to look that over further.
Yeah, and with the animal, you really got to look at what the state says too.
Well, this references best managed practices and for agriculture, New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, so that's got to be, I would say that's got to be what the state approved.
And that way, when they change, this will change.
Yeah, if we leave that in there, then we'll
Right.
probably cover it. We haven't stepped in that regard. And the spilling control countermeasure plan there, again, regulated substances, that's going to have to be studied with our other regulated substances. To see, I think, anyways. But anybody jump in, don't let me run the whole thing here.
A good job.
That's why you get the big money.
Right, yeah, I do. So we're putting that in, actually. We're looking at over there, that number. 6 there. The other 2 and 3.
Yeah, I don't know if 6 is redundant, because we're already asking for something to minimize the release of pollutants and identify control mechanisms. So
We could combine them then.
I think there must be some way to combine them, and maybe it's something to ask the fire chief.
All right, let's put that in. Okay, we can combine those. Okay, that. I think that concludes that. What else? Anybody else have anything? Okay, looking at here.
Well, I did want to mention that, so we have this, I think this happened, this happened right before I came on, I believe, but, so in January 2020, the Conservation Commission had this phase 2 ecological assessment done by Moosewood Ecological. Yeah, so it's part of the second part of the natural resources inventory. And they recommended some things that that Concom just decided to prioritize a couple of them for the year. And one of them was to update the open space plan, which hasn't been updated since 2004. And probably combine that with the parcel-based ecological assessment. And then, so we're talking to them, we're talking to Moosewood right now about what that's going to involve. But another thing that they can do, which they had recommended, was to conduct an audit of our current zoning regulations. So I just want to let you know that I think we may have them do that, just to look at, you know, how well we're protecting the critical resources in the town, and if there's other things that we can be doing, or other, whether it's ordinances or regulations that we could tweak or add to better protect.
So you're just starting on that now? You mean, you say you're
What's that?
just starting on that, going to have meetings?
We're going to meet them in March to talk about that, so I wanted to let you know and to see if there is anything you wanted us to ask them about, or anything you wanted to.
Well, the rest of that's your department, but I don't know anything to ask about that. I don't know about the rest of the board here.
Yeah.
But if we think it's something, we can pass it on.
Yeah, please do, yeah, you know, let us know if there's questions you have, or if there's particular regulations that have maybe caused some issues, and made your life more difficult.
And if you want to have a joint meeting with us, you know, while you're in the midst of those, further on in the summer or something sometime, feel free to just let Sarah know.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd like to keep you all up on that process so that we're doing it together, you know, and share what we found out.
Good. Moving along.
So I'm thinking an area of special interest to me in that regard is the Wilson Pond area, you know, and how we do have a business, it's kind of a funny part of town, because we've got public water and sewer, which encourages more intensive development, but we've got the water body there that's fragile. So I would be interested in an assessment of the zoning of the business district that is in the vicinity of Wilson Pond. It's really, you know, when you look at a map, I think it's the most congested, heavily populated part of the entire town. You know, it's just a lot going on with it.
Right. And I'm not aware of the size of the watershed feeding into Wilson Pond. I haven't really looked at that yet, so, you know, it may be that the area right around Wilson Pond, there's not a lot you can do, but that there is a larger watershed that remains that could be maybe some.
Yeah, but if there's something in our zoning that we
Yeah.
can do that enhance how we deal with that part of town, I'd be interested.
Great. Okay.
Anybody else? Let's move on to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a start.
Our rules of procedure. And they aren't very long. You've all read them. I hope you've all read them anyways. Maybe not. If not, we'll just go through them.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can email it.
Email it to me.
So rules of procedure, we're updating those, and we've got to update some of them because of the timing issue there. Sarah had given us a memo back in February on changing the 90-day to the 65 days and so on and so forth. So we'll just go down the list of them here. And we have organization. And see, under that, planning board members are elected and positions filled on a staggered basis at regular town elections pursuant to RSA 669:17. And I think it should add in and RSA 673:5, (2), because that's what talks about the staggered basis. You can do it either way. You can do it staggered or not. So that the 669 is just a general election, I think, of the planning board members. The 673:5 talks about the staggered, how it's staggered. So I think we should just reference that as well, since we're referencing the other one. Selectmen shall choose one selectman as an ex officio member to the planning board. And then, we also had, I can give you mine without all the notes and stuff on it there, but we just need to go over with the board. We also had, like a general rules of procedure that Sarah gave us. And number 6 and 7 there, I think we should insert under the organization, and I'll just read it off as to what it is. Number 6 says members must reside in, and we say Swanzey, and are expected to attend each meeting of the board to exercise their duties and responsibilities. Any member unable to attend a meeting shall notify the town planner as soon as possible. Members, including chairman and all officers, shall participate in the decision-making process and vote to approve or disapprove all motions and consideration. I think we could put that in there. And that, again, that's an organization, I think that's number 1. And number 7 also says each newly elected or appointed, including re-elected or reappointed members, shall be sworn in and take an oath of office as required by RSA 14:1. I suppose that should be in there since that's part of what we do here. So think about inserting those in there.
Going back on to 6, you're saying strike community?
Saying what?
Strike?
Oh, yeah, I'm saying
Community.
strike
throw in
community, just put in
Swanzey.
And just say the Swansea townships?
Just
Because you
Swansea.
have,
But Swansea is
Reside in
Swansea. I don't know if
Swansea.
we're separating any of the township, be Swansea or Swansea.
So you just,
But you're saying because of Westport, right?
but that's part of
Westport.
Swansea.
It's considered Swansea, so I think
Yeah, it's just
Want them to be a registered voter?
we did have that in there, registered voter, and we're going to get to that. I don't think it should be in there because lots of people aren't registered voters, but could be on our board. And we shouldn't.
Yeah, there's a state requirement to be a voter.
State recorder, you're asking?
Yeah, does a state require us to
It
be a voter?
doesn't matter. These are our rules of procedure.
Right, but if the state required it, we'd have to change our rule because we have to obey the
Yeah,
state.
but I don't think they require that, or I don't think they do, not that I know of, but you could research that. That's your job for the week. Okay. Yeah, just saying in Swansea. Suggesting, do you think we should have it otherwise in the township?
I don't know, if we get into a legal spat, are we divided, or are each of the townships delineated? North Swansea, East Swansea?
No.
Are there?
It's just the town of Swansea,
Okay.
all 45 square miles,
Let's just keep it simple.
Yep, sounds good.
and parts of Roxbury. We'll throw that in. Parts of Roxbury with us.
There you go. Okay. Number 2, and that talks about, it's an alternate for ex officio member, an alternate for the ex officio member to the planning board, and it says shall be appointed by the selectmen pursuant to RSA 673 to be one. The term of ex officio member shall be the same as those of the respective members and is in addition to the alternates. Now, we don't do that, do we do that?
We're rotating.
But, so we could leave it in there and just change the shall to may, that the select board may do that if they want to. Leave it in there because they may want an ex officio member. We had one, I think Gus Lorando was an ex officio
Right.
member on the planning board for a while, for the selectmen. So, not that they shall do it, but we could just change that to, planning board may be appointed by the selectmen. So, and leave it in there. Now, underneath that too, I'm proposing a little A, and let's see, I've got my little yellow sheet notes here, so bear with me for a minute here. Find out. I think we should add underneath that, this is also an organization, pursuant to RSA 673:71, or I.
Excuse me, can you, where are you?
Yeah.
We're looking,
Okay, do you have the same one that I have?
It's at the back of her,
pardon?
she has the beginning part.
I separated it from what we had there, I think. You have it behind.
You go toward the back,
It should be the last couple
You have it
pages.
back in there.
right.
Yeah,
Oh.
you have it back in there.
It says page 1 of 6 on the bottom.
I just separated it to work with
It
it.
looks like,
That's the rules of procedure, Swansea Planning Board,
not the
organization,
last
starts off.
Okay,
it's like 3 from the end.
The first one's generic to any
and
town.
this,
I totally
and this one.
now shuffled it up.
Close, just keep flipping.
There it is, right here.
Okay, so that's where we started right there.
B7, did you say?
It was, page 106 is what I'm on, that first one there, but it was in that packet that Sarah gave us a couple of weeks ago there. I just separated it, is why it's separated. So those are the first two paragraphs we're running down off of that one. That number one, under organization members, and number two, alternate selectmen. And then I'm suggesting that we put an A underneath that, number two, and then A would read, pursuant to RSA 673:7, Roman numeral 1, members of the planning board may also serve on any other municipal board or commission, provided that such multiple membership does not result in two planning board members serving on the same board or commission. We reference that down here. I'm thinking just taking that out. It's number
B.
It's number B, right? And all it says is appointment to the planning board, and that's under the alternates, but it doesn't necessarily mean alternate. It's all of us. So I think we should take that B out underneath there.
I'm lost.
I'm sorry. What I'm
Just so you know, he's putting that up here, basically.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you don't have a copy of it, do you?
I don't have a copy,
Oh, okay,
so
well, that's why you lost
I'm
it.
flying
I
blind.
don't think I have another copy of
But
it.
you'll get a copy, you'll know. And Sarah's making notes.
Sarah will give you a copy.
Sarah will have to.
I will,
But, yeah, just,
all of these things, if they're approved, Scott and I are going to figure out and bring it back.
There you go.
right, but we're just
Before a
discussing
public
it as the
hearing.
board, to see if anyone has anything extra or says I'm nuts and don't put that in there or whatever. We're just doing it here. So probably don't even have to, you can just say the board discussed.
That's what I was gonna do.
Discussion
Okay. So again, it's a small little A under there pursuant to the RSA, and that just says that planning board members can serve on other boards and commissions as long as there aren't more than one.
And number 3 under alternates, you're being redundant. Because you're citing the same thing.
We're taking that out because they had on number 3 under alternates, they had appointment to the planning board shall comply with multiple membership requirements of RSA 6731. That's the one I just referenced, but it says appointment, we're talking about alternates.
Right.
This applies to all the planning board members, not just alternates. So we should cross that out of there and put this in here, reference that and put it in up there, that little paragraph. And then when we get down here, just cross that one out. You following, Jane? You look like.
She doesn't have a copy of it.
You know what I did? Sarah, I went over to see Sarah and she gave me the whole packet and I read the entire packet and then
I gave this to you last Thursday.
okay, I can't find it in this mess. But
Just
anyway,
listen.
that's what I'm doing, but I had a question. That's why I look that way, I guess. My face gives me away every time. I read all of this. During the last several planning board meetings, I studied this stuff for hours. And it does mention having more than one planning board member on another committee. Now, if someone runs for planning board and wins their race and winds up on Conservation Commission as a member, because Conservation Commission is not, that committee is not an elected committee, then one of us should drop out.
If someone else, yeah, there can't be more than 2 planning board members on a commission or
Right, that's what I'm saying.
board. So yeah, one would have to drop out,
Yeah,
right?
okay, good.
And that's the RSA's.
It says no more than one planning, the way the RSA reads, no more than one planning board member may serve on the Concom, Board of Selectmen, or local land use board. Any 2 can serve on other town boards or commissions.
So 2 or more.
Yeah, Concom is
Yeah.
limited by the RSA.
That must be what 673:7(1)(I) references. So you can have 2.
Well, it says, specifically says that as long as 2 planning members on a board or commission, but it must specifically state what those commissions are. But the RSA does state that,
I have a gift for everybody, you can look for it.
So then, you couldn't have 2
you
planning board
have
members
planning
on the planning board and on the zoning board.
Well, I don't think you can have that anyway, right?
it says that you can have 1, but you can't have 2, but it does mention commissions as well.
Right.
RSA.
They're locked
The
in.
RSA on the one says in case
CPA.
any two appointed or elected
Good.
members of the planning board may
Need
serve.
one?
I have
You probably got all of those over there in Chesterfield anyway.
I've been, we'll take, yeah, this is right here. I'll take yours. Where is it? Just point it out. Thank you. I've been using the old one.
Thank you.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Do you want to look along with that, Helen?
Not really.
They're heavy.
I have a black
Yeah,
one.
Richard is right, definitely so. The new part of this says that 2 more members can,
It says they can?
it says it can, yeah, mine says it can,
Oh,
but mine's
gee,
an
I
old.
don't have any
This
excuse
is the
for
new
quitting
one.
the
Okay, that's a different.
This is the
one.
newest one.
Okay.
This is the only one here that's
this-
actually new.
I'll give this back.
Okay.
Everybody throw away your old books.
Yeah, because they change. And what page are we on? Do we know? We look in the index.
673:7, Roman numeral 1.
And deleted. No.
Any two appointed or elected members.
That would
This was,
be,
Still says it on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just put that as that, put that in there.
So if I'm reading this right, we could have 2 selectmen on the planning board.
And vice versa.
And I think it's specific to
Yeah.
ex officio.
If you do an official, but do we have official? Because you guys, right now, you rotate the planning board.
So it's only one of us at any time.
It should only be one at a time.
Any 2 appointed or elected members of planning board in city or town may also serve together on any municipal board or commission except that no more than 1 appointment.
Local government.
Yep.
Yeah, so there can only be one planning board member participating on conservation, select board, or ZBA.
Yeah.
That's the local name.
Okay, then. Thank you for our new books.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. I'm glad this came up. Otherwise, I would have been looking them all.
carrying them all around another 2 weeks.
So I think we should still have that paragraph there, just correct this time instead of the.
This is good, but
Lays it out.
by the time of the legislative year, I'll probably outdo this.
We'll have 1 year where we wrap it.
Okay, so now under alternates, so the elected planning board members may appoint 3 alternate members for a term of 3 years each. And it should go on to say, which shall be staggered in the same manner as elected members pursuant to 673:5, numeral 2. Because that's what it set up, that 673:6(2) says that that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be staggered. So we should just reference that in there. I think. Anybody else? Okay, let's see now. Vacancies and the membership occurring other than through the expiration of a term of office shall be filled as follows, okay? For elected member by appointment by the remaining board members until the next regular municipal election, at which time a successor shall be elected to either fill the unexpired term or start a new term as appropriate. Generally do that, that's how we do that here. And for an alternate member by appointment by the remaining board members, and I think we should say the same thing, because that's what we've been doing. Instead of for a period of 3 years, we should cross that out and say for an alternate member by appointment by the remaining board members to either fill the unexpired term or start a new term as appropriate, because we stagger the alternate members as well. Let's see, nomination procedure. When a vacancy occurs either for an elected member or an alternate member, a notice of vacancy shall be posted in at least 2 public places. Term of office shall be indicated in the posting. When the vacancies are posted and it has registered voters, I think we should just put it residents, Swanzey residents seeking to be appointed shall submit their letter of interest to the town planner or designee, both on the appointment shall occur at a date and time included in the posted notice vacancy. Anybody else, anybody agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah, so it's just
I check the legality of that because I think, like the North Swansea Water Commissioners, treasurer, auditor, they all have to be Swansea voters. They have to be on the checklist.
Okay.
Ran into that.
Kind of makes sense to do
Also
that.
add
It lets them,
the vote on the
Right,
appointment shall
because
To the
why should I vote
residency.
hike your
Notice
fees?
of vacancy. I would just say that we post vacancies and they hang on the post office wall for months maybe before we get an applicant, so maybe
Oh.
we don't have to post when we're gonna vote on it, because we might not get an applicant
right.
for.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, right, because that's.
Or keep
you're
it
right.
and don't follow it, but
Yeah.
just know we're not following that.
Oh. Now I can read that.
The applicant shall be notified of the time of the vote.
Well, just at a date and
All
time
applicants.
certain.
Sure.
Yeah, we use that a lot in here, because you're right.
And maybe
It's never the same.
just throw the year on there so that,
Here.
yeah. I mean, just annually put the posting up if there is an opening. And
It seems like.
so long as people know that for that year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be taking it down soon. Because we've filled a lot of positions over the 5 months it's been hanging there.
And the website is allowed, right? Posting, yeah.
Things probably may change at the end of the voting too.
So shall we leave that in there or take that out? What do
I
you
think if we just change it date and time certain,
Okay.
then that covers us, because, it is included in our agendas, which get posted all over the place. So it does wind up being posted when a vote's gonna happen, but it's not a public hearing, so.
Sounds good, yeah. And regular planning board meetings are held on the second and fourth Thursday of every month and we're changing that to Whitcomb Hall, located at 17 Main Street, Swansea, at 6 p.m. And that the meeting will be held at Whitcomb Hall. We're going to change that to Whitcomb Hall. Notice must be posted to RSA 91-A of the change in location. And next, a quorum for all meetings of the board shall be 4 members. There are 4 members, including alternates sitting in place of regular members. Number 3, if any regular member is absent from any meeting or hearing or disqualifies himself from sitting on a particular case, the chairman shall designate one of the alternate members to sit in place of the absent or disqualified member, and each alternate shall be, in all respects, a full member of the board of all associates. See, if any member finds, this is number 4, if any member finds it necessary to disqualify himself from sitting in a particular case as provided in RSA 673:14, procedures contained in the ordinance of the town of Swansea, conflicts of interest described and regulated, adopted March 14th, 1995, will be followed.
Can we stop? Because I get all in a twist about how we describe and regulate conflicts of interest. And I wonder if we should fold this ordinance into our rules and procedures.
The ordinance of the, conflicts of interest described and regulated.
Yeah, just a thought, because it's clear, and it spells out exactly how they define pecuniary interest, distinction, employment, other judgment, and that stuff.
I don't think we ought to fold it into it because we reference it. There are other things in here that we'll be referencing. This is like an outline as to what the board rules are.
Strike himself and put in one's self being politically correct.
Yeah, like when I recuse myself.
And let's see, as far as putting the conflicts of interest described and regulated, adopted at town meeting.
Could we have it as an addendum?
It already is, I'm just asking the regular board, do you want to put it into these, it's not an ordinance, to these rules of procedure?
I'm just saying to have it handy.
Well, then, it can be handy.
The RSA, right?
Well, no, it's not an RSA. This is a specific one to the town of Swansea, so it can be handy by everyone having it in their notebook.
That's what I, yeah,
But if it's referred to, then that's what guides it.
right, that's why we refer.
Let's see, the order of business for regular meetings shall be as follows: roll call, reading of the agenda, and usually we do the minutes and regional impact before public hearings. I don't know, we can juggle that around or just leave it as it is. It doesn't matter. Anybody? Move it around or just leave it as it says?
I don't think it matters.
Fix it.
Well, if we do the minutes of the previous meeting before the public hearings, we'll just put that there anyways, because we do that on a regular basis, so we change F.
Just move all the other letters up one.
Yeah, and we can just leave it, the rest of it there. Okay, let's see. Application procedures for subdivision and site plan review. Okay. Now, I have some notes on this one. Pre-application review. Now, that says, I'll read it as we have it. Pre-application review, RSA 6764. This phase is optional at the discretion of the applicant, but is recommended for any large project, information discussion, any regular scheduled meeting, non-binding and non-public hearing. I'm thinking of putting in an insert in there. Let me see what you think about it. Okay, it's under pre-application review, RSA 676:4. This phase shall be in accordance with section 7 of the Swansea Site Plan Review Regulations and is optional at the discretion of, and then we just continue the rest of it, discretion of the applicant as recommended for any large project information discussed at any regular scheduled meeting, non-binding and no public hearing. We should add in or formal public notice required, because we don't have to notice you that way. I just put that reference in there because that reference, that 7 of our site plan review regulations lays out that whole thing on the pre-application review. That's discussion and it goes into in great detail. So if you reference that, you can see exactly what we're talking about in the site plan review regulations. Anybody? That's no way.
Smart.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. We have design review phase, RSA, and 676:4, but I'm using my older book, I might be wrong there, but I had 676:4, 2B.
Yep, it's still there.
Is that there? Okay. So while still non-binding, this discussion would involve more specific and require, and I had crossed out, and it says require formal public notice, and leave the abutters out, because we notice more than abutters. We notice everyone on the plat, all the engineers, all those people there. It's not just abutters. So if we just left it, this discussion would involve more specific and require formal public notice per 6764, Roman numeral 1D. Okay, now I have a notation on mine. Yeah, I had to insert underneath that fee as B1, just to say that the pre-application review, RSA 676:4, this phase shall be in accordance with, oh, I already did that one, never mind. Okay, there it is. To insert, pre-application review shall be separate and apart from formal consideration, and the time limits for acting in paragraph 1C5 of this section shall not apply until formal acceptance and in accordance with paragraph C4 and notification in accordance with paragraph C5. I know it sounds confusing, but it's referencing these paragraphs right down here, and it's just saying that the clock doesn't start until the planning board actually accepts the application. That's laid out down there. So that probably should be up there, just saying, just letting them know that we aren't starting that clock until.
I think it's good. I think maybe more people will take advantage of pre-application review and design review if it's more clear.
They might, and it might work for us to do that. Okay, that was an insert in there. Now we have completed application required. And I have, now in that number 1 there, substituted this in the very beginning of that. In accordance with the requirements of section 7.3 of the site, or the Swanzey site plan review regulations, a completed application sufficient to invoke the jurisdiction of the board shall be filed with the board's designee at least 21 days prior to the public meeting at which it is submitted. I put that in there because section 7.3 lists all the things that an application has to have in order to be complete. So, if this says sufficient to invoke the jurisdiction, that tells you what is sufficient to invoke the jurisdiction under our site plan review regulations. So, that's why that's referenced. Completed application shall include all fees for notices and any other fees assessed by the board under provisions of RSA 6764, number 1G. And I've added this in, and shall fulfill the requirements of section 7.2 of the Swanzey site plan review regulations. Again, it's just a reference to what it actually is involved in there. So again, this is pretty much an outline. That's the meat of the stuff there in our regulations. Okay, number 3. Number 3, I've put it, I'm adding this, I'm proposing to add this before paragraph right into it. It says, at a regular meeting and with proper notification per RSA 6764 or numeral 1D, the board, with recommendations from the board's staff, will determine if the application is complete. Now the number 4 there, got some circles and arrows here, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, I've started it off a few sentences down. I've crossed out the first 1, 2, 3 sentences. I'm starting it out with the acceptance one. So, you want me to read what's there first, or just read what we're?
Read what you're proposing.
Okay, I'm proposing that says acceptance will be, and I'm adding this in accordance with section 7.3 of the site plan review regulations. Let's see, requiring, I can't even read my own writing here. Requiring an affirmative vote by a majority of the board present, and a public hearing may immediately follow or be scheduled a date and time certain. Always use that stuff there. So again, let me read it from the top here. It says, acceptance will be in accordance with section 7.3 of the site plan review regulations, requiring an affirmative vote by a majority of the board present, and a public hearing may immediately follow or be scheduled a date and time certain. So that just lays out when it's going to be voted on, or how it's going to be voted, and how it's passed. Is what that lays out. Any comments? No, okay. Number 5, a public hearing is required. Let's see. No, new wording from the cover sheet. Should we have here? Get down to what Sarah sent us here. It's number 5C. Yeah, 5C. A public hearing is required after acceptance of a completed application. The applicant will be notified in writing when the application has been accepted, and the 65-day or 95 days in the case of developments with regional impact clock starts. So we should replace number 5 with that. And Sarah had already done that anyways. Now, under decisions, at the close of the public hearing, the board may defer discussion on the case to a time later and continue with the next agenda item. The board may approve, number 2, the board may approve or deny the request, approve with conditions with a further decision, which we do. And notice of decision shall be filed in writing within 5 business days after a decision is made as required by RSA 763.
Could we revisit number 2?
Yep.
Should we change defer the decision to deny without prejudice, because the law did change to reflect that? Because I'm not sure you can defer it
that's
anymore.
right. You're right. They did. Yeah, I saw that in your good catch there. Yeah. And that means they can submit the application almost identical. Normally, they can't. If the board denies an application, they cannot submit a close to identical application to us. They have to be different, but if we do it without prejudice, they can submit almost an identical application.
I think it could be identical.
Could be the same exact, okay, identical application. So they're allowed to do that if we do that.
But it would be in their best interest to have it be almost identical, to include additional information that.
Should we reference that change in the law, like the RSA for that, or?
You could, I'll look it up, but I don't know if it's on there.
Sounds good in there. Okay, back to, this is on here right here, which really on here. That's for consideration, appeal, and court review of the planning board. Oh, wait a minute. In the case of, there's another sentence there that goes with that other one. It says, in the case of denial or deferral, the notice shall include the reasons, and it should be thereof, it said therefore. Okay.
We need to change that if we're taking out the deferral.
In case of denial, though.
But it says denial
Oh,
or
yeah,
deferral.
deferral, yeah.
So
We
do
need
we
to
just take out
deferral out?
deferral?
Yeah, definitely. So the planning board may, this is under reconsideration, appeal, in court review of planning board decisions, RSA 67715. The planning board may reconsider any decision or to approve or disapprove an application for good cause, provided it is within the statutory appeal period. This may be done through a motion that specifies the reasons for reconsideration. On successful passage of the motion, the board shall schedule a public hearing or public meeting with notice as provided in 676(4) Roman numeral 1D, where they shall consider whether or not to revise or alter their original decision. Should the board reach a new decision, a new appeal period shall be considered to have begun pursuant to RSA 67715 SEQ. And actually, that brings up another thing I need to bring up here. The chairman at the January 26th meeting, I'll find my paper, I'll find it in a minute, made an inaccurate comment. And normally I probably wouldn't have to say anything about it, but somebody put it in the minutes. And
Did you put, I'll find it in a minute?
and it's in the minutes, and you know, it says the chair said if that a condition of the site plan approval, the 30 days start after the conditions are met. I've been under the inclination that the 30-day appeal period started after the conditions were met, but that isn't the case, because I looked and I couldn't find anything that would support that, but I found contradicting wording that says you cannot do that. So I was under the impression that, if the conditions weren't met, then there'd be nothing to appeal. But that's not the case. They only have 30 days from when, and I know it's in, I don't know whereabouts in that one. I know it's in, well, it's under 677, so. And I'll read what it says there, and I'm pretty sure it's in the same one. It says,
677 what?
such petition 67715. Such petition shall be presented to the court within 30 days after the decision of the planning board has been filed and first becomes available for public inspection.
Oh,
Not after the compliance hearing. And I said that it was after that, and I think Sarah probably caught that, but she didn't want to say anything because she felt sorry for me because those guys are beating me up so much there during that. She didn't know how much I could take.
I remember when he said that. He kind of went and walked away, and I wouldn't have been surprised if you heard from him.
Well, now he's confused about what a statutory period is to
Because he looked like, well, we'll see about that, he went stomping back off.
Was that Mr. Parisi? I wonder if I should reach out.
No, it was,
I don't
it was
remember.
Bryant Robinson.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
I know somebody up there asked me about it, and that's what I said, and then I researched it back, and then
Yeah.
That wasn't.
He kind
that
of
wasn't
tossed his
correct.
head and turned around and stomped back to his seat, and I thought, ee.
Well, there was a lot of that going on at that.
Yeah, there was. Mr. Parisi kind of lost it, too.
So anyways, we need to keep that in mind. And if I do go down that road or whatever, just stomp on my foot or something
Okay.
and keep me from doing that type of stuff.
Is he without, has he run out of time now? I mean, he can't,
Did he have cause? I mean, not cause standing?
I don't know.
Was he in a butter?
I don't
And
think
he doesn't
so.
even have standing,
I don't
so it
think
doesn't
he
matter.
even lives in Swanzey. I don't know if he has a lake place or
He has a
not.
lake property, but his primary residence is Keene.
Yeah.
So he could appeal the decision.
But he could be on the planning board because he doesn't have to be on the voter checklist.
Actually,
But he's not a resident, but he's not a resident.
Something about that. How does that work if somebody just owns property here, but they don't
Yeah.
live here?
Right, that's why they need to be on the voter checklist.
how we've been dealing with it, because we had this come up,
Yeah.
actually specifically with Joe Parisi. He wanted to join one of the boards, and he was not a resident,
Yeah.
and with another person as well. And we said we couldn't use the checklist because we felt it was unconstitutional to do that, but we said that their mailing address needed to be. We had a couple of people turn their vacation.
A lot of people still have Keene mailboxes, though, that live in town.
Because we can't verify people's residence
Right.
in a way that doesn't,
I'd use the checklist,
the checklist.
let them do it.
Yeah, we need to pursue
That's a
this.
public document, so.
Is it in a butter? I mean, if you own land next to something. that-
Wherever he lives.
Yeah.
You're in a
Well,
butter.
you can speak to it, but
Well, you could
you
appeal
can't be
it.
on the board.
Oh, we're talking about the board. I thought we were
Right.
talking about appealing. it.
We're talking about all of it.
All of it.
It'd be really confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it might as well.
At least 4 things are mentioned during that conversation.
Okay,
Parisi's
so,
house is for sale, so he's coming, folks.
right, we cleared up the chairman's inaccurate statement there. Public notice. Let's see, public hearing notices shall follow the procedure outlined in RSA 6764. Public notice will be published. Public hearings, we're just, some of this we do, some we don't. I don't know how to change it or not.
We put a local newspaper instead of specifically the Keene Sentinel, just in case it goes away.
And we'll change it if it goes away.
I'll hold you to it.
Yes, you can. Let's see. We call the hearing in session, ask for the clerk's report. We don't do that. We can do that. If we want to do that. If we don't, we can just cross that out of there. We can just call the hearing in session, which is what we usually do. Anybody here?
Where are you? What?
I'm at public hearings.
Yeah.
On that page 4 of 6, public hearings, and it just notes how the conduct of the public hearings is done or governed in our rules. The chairman shall call the hearing in session and ask for the clerk's report on the first
Oh, I see.
case. Generally, we don't do that.
You're acting as the clerk
You're the
usually.
boss.
Looking for, or at least to
I
kind
think
of
we should
read what the
have to-
actually, the state.
No, actually, it would be
Or
Sarah.
Sarah, excuse me.
It would be, yeah, we don't have a clerk. It would be Sarah if we did that.
Some boards have the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary or clerk, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that might be why they reference it.
Remember when he was at Sarah's job?
Could you be gigged on anything?
Could I what?
Be gigged on it? Could something like that we didn't follow these procedures, if we don't,
Come back at you.
let it come back and get you?
Not that.
So, not that.
Not that, yeah, right? Any of these, if we don't follow them exactly in order or something like that, I don't see any problem there.
It says shall.
It does say shall, yeah. It does say shall.
Just change that to May.
And ask for.
Yeah, let's change it
The
to May.
chairman's
But we
discretion.
want
Chairman to call the
Yeah,
hearing in
that's right.
session.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
do a clerk's report in the sense that you do those write-ups.
Yeah, but I just don't read them.
So we'll just say then the chairman shall call the hearing in session,
Okay.
and we'll just leave it at that.
Which we can always ask Sarah to read it if we really need to.
like an auctioneer,
And the
really
applicant shall
fast.
be called to present his proposal. That's generally what we do. Members of the board may ask questions at any point. Just wanted to do that. Each person who appears shall be required to state his name and address and indicate whether they are party to the case or an agent or counsel. We do that. Let's see. Those in favor of the proposal shall be allowed to speak. We usually don't take an order like that. Usually, as they come up and speak, we don't really separate them out and say, okay, everybody in favor can speak, and then everyone against it can speak. I don't know, does anyone want to conduct hearings like that, or?
No, I think just let them go.
Do we actually ask each individual that's speaking if they're in a butter? I know you did that with one person a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do it if it's getting really cumbersome and it's over and over again the same stuff. I'll try and limit it to just the butters. But it's a decision by the board. You guys overrode me the last time I did that. But it's a decision by the board whether we want to just let a butter speak at any time in that, or people that have party to the case. But generally, we allow anybody to speak at the meetings just to hear what they have to say.
They go,
So they go back and forth on
Yeah.
this here, but we don't normally do that, so we might just want to just take that out of there.
Just those speaking
Yeah, where is it? Just so.
to the proposal shall have a right, or
Yeah.
shall have a,
Here's an interpretation though. I mean, so let's say that there's a room full of people who are opposed and each of them speaks in opposition, and then after each one of them finishes speaking in opposition, the applicant speaks in favor, which is effectively what has happened in recent meetings. So there was like a sort of a ping pong situation where that was definitely happening. So, and I don't know if that's,
Well, we let them rebut,
Yeah, so
sometimes something comes up, then I'll ask the applicant, well, do you have anything to say about
Yeah,
that? Because we
yeah.
want to know his answer, but we don't normally follow that procedure all the time, but in those cases, we do, because it's pertinent to what we're discussing in that.
well,
so then we were doing this.
not
the way
necess-
this is written, you could be here till midnight because
Let's
each
just
one.
write it this way, let's just say, those in favor or in opposition of the proposal shall be allowed to speak. And leave it at that, because that's what we do. Okay.
That
So then we can
covers it.
we can modify number 5 to that, and then cross out number 6, cross out number 7, cross out number 8.
how about just add to that, and shall have the opportunity to rebut previous testimony, or
They have had.
I guess.
They would
that's the same
anyway,
thing, though,
but,
isn't it?
yeah.
Speak in opposition or in favor, we usually just call
but does
them.
that kind of infer that it's, they're only letting them speak once? Or no?
No, we don't do that. We never say you can only speak once.
No, actually, I've heard Scott say, going on a long time, if you have something different to say,
Right, after a term, yeah.
yeah, after they've spoken and they want to speak again, second or third time.
So we'll just leave it general and vague, so no one holds our feet to the fire on it.
Good idea.
That's a report bar right there.
That'll put lawyers out of business.
Well, number 9 kind of covers
Any
that.
member of the board, through the chairman, may request, and it should say any instead of against party. But any party to the case to speak a second time.
Uh-huh.
Are we gonna have a party?
Number 10, any party to the case who wants to ask a question of another party to the case must do so through the chairman. We do that. Planning board will hear with interest any evidence that pertains to the facts of the case or how the facts relate to the provisions of the town zoning ordinance and the state RSA's.
But also, aren't we interested in how the evidence pertains to the site plan review regs as well?
We always are interested in that.
Yeah, so,
That shouldn't.
so this is not limited to the town zoning and state RSA's.
This is just a general procedure as to how the Swanzey Planning Board conducts their meetings. It's our rules of procedure. We don't want to be too specific in them.
But we want to welcome all facts.
Yes, we do. But, just repeat when you had something to add to that, or?
I was just saying, do we, how the facts relate to the provisions of the town zoning ordinance, and how the facts pertain to site plan review regs.
I don't know if we want to limit it to that.
Okay.
You know, we let people speak, and they have all kinds of things about dropping cigarette butts and dog crap and all that type of stuff. You know, we let them speak, say what they want. Well, generally we do, you know, within reason, as we should, because, you know, we're the board. We're doing this all the time. You know, it's easy for us, but it's not easy for them to get up and say something about something going on there.
What's the fact, even something that seems mundane to us, or to them, it's an important thing that they want to get out to us.
Sometimes, yeah.
We should listen.
It is, we listen, and then the board is supposed to take the facts out of what we've heard for testimony and decide on that. You don't necessarily have to stop someone because it doesn't have to pertain to the regulations or the zoning ordinance. You don't have to let them go on all night either, but still, they deserve their say. Number 12. I had another notation on number 12. We had thought of replacing number 12 possibly with this. Public hearings, number 12. Let's see, after all evidence and before the public hearing is closed, the board may discuss conditions for approval that would require a compliance hearing and may decide to continue the public hearing to allow the applicant to address those conditions. Like we did tonight, given the opportunity, because otherwise if we close it, they have to
Notice it.
everything. They're going to be just like the other, all the abutters and all that type of stuff. If they have the opportunity to do it at our next meeting, and actually we should limit it to our next meeting, something like that, so it won't be, you know, keep the public strung out over the whole thing too. I think maybe we should add something in there that says, the condition of approval or a compliance hearing, and may decide to continue the public hearing to our next meeting. I think to the next scheduled meeting, so there's a definite time there. So it isn't strung out, but at least give them the opportunity to do that.
And then if he couldn't make the next meeting, then he'd have to go through all that all over again.
Well,
Then he could make him say that he couldn't make the next meeting, or he wouldn't have enough time to do it before the next meeting, but the following one after that he would.
The board could decide, I suppose, up to the board if they want to. We won't say in here that it has to be one meeting and that's it, but we just say that we'll postpone it. Our rule is to postpone it to the next meeting. Then if he comes in and starts stringing us along, we just close the public hearing, so well, you'll have to come back.
Or could we say to the next meeting or date and time certain? You know, like tonight, Chad could have said, I'll be ready at the end of March.
We could do that, yeah. We could do that too. So let's see, that'd be rewording this to allow applicant to address it. Yeah. So this continue the public hearing to a date and time certain. Yeah. Put it in right there. Date and time certain. We use that a bunch of times. And that would be in the replace. Oh no, then we leave 12 in, or actually it'd be a 13, because we do need to say that when we're closing the hearing. So let's see, after all evidence, the chairman shall close the public hearing. Let's see, no, we can't, because that contradicts what we said there, right? Yeah, so we'll replace that with 12, because that gives us the opportunity to do either one. Because we said after all evidence and before the public hearing is closed, the board may discuss conditions for approval that would require a compliance hearing, and may decide to continue the public hearing to a date and time certain to allow the applicant to address the conditions. So we may do that. Okay, otherwise we close it. Almost to the end. Let's see, records. The records of the board shall be kept by the clerk and made available for public inspection at the town hall in accordance with statutory requirements. Minutes of all meetings, including names of board members, persons appearing before the board, and all votes taken, and brief description of the subject matter shall be open to public inspection within 144 hours of the public meeting, March 91 May to November 2.
So that would be changed to 5 days.
It might. If it's
I'm not
that
sure.
new.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Actually,
Was it 5 days or 5 business days?
In business days.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's business days.
Joint meetings may be held with other boards under the provisions of RSA 676 it's supposed to be 6762, if both boards are agreeable. And then again, amendments, these rules of procedure may be amended by a majority vote of the board members present, including alternates, provided that such amendment is discussed in a meeting of the planning board, and following such discussion, the text of the proposed amendment is posted in at least 2 public places in town at least 10 days preceding the meeting, and the vote is to be taken. And that ends it there, so.
Going back to where this-
Yep.
We should post it on posting. Should we include the internet site?
I don't know. I suppose we could, let's see.
Well, aren't they
Posted there
posted on
anywhere,
the town website?
Yep, we hang them at town hall and we put them on the town website. And we always have them on town hall within 5 business days. Sometimes it takes longer on the website because the website crashes. Then we try to change it. So I might be reluctant to add that we'll have it on there within the 5 business days, just in case we don't.
Okay, we'll leave it in accordance with statutory requirements. Have we covered it all? So if we have covered it all, then at the next meeting, we can post to have the plan we're going to vote on.
Do you want me to type up a new draft for everybody to review before we post for the meeting to make sure I've interpreted this all correctly?
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
we should do that and get it out to us, but I think we could still have it for our next meeting that we're going to vote on it. If there's something wrong, then we just don't vote on it, we change it and go to the next meeting. But if it's okay, then we've done it and we've got it all taken care of. It brings up another matter with the board. I'd asked Sarah about possibly sending us via mail, snail mail as it goes, but just the, like the applications, not the entire, 400 page or whatever thing that we have there, but I did write up a little list. Just the agenda, the minutes in the agenda, and in the application, the background ordinance applicable, which Sarah always writes up for us, department review, that stuff, staff comments, and any correspondence from abutters or in the applicant's narrative, which usually is only maybe about 5 pages or something like that, And that's because if you get it by mail, you'll have it there. You might have it on the kitchen counter or whatever with you, and you have a few minutes to read it, and you can get your pen out and write things and find things like Beverly shouldn't have put into that meeting there before that you have to highlight and bring up at the meeting. And I find it anyways better to do it that way and really sit down rather than try to read it off their phone or off of a computer screen or something like that. And again, not necessarily the whole package, just those few items there that we could review and look at maybe a week or so before.
Going back to the olden days before computers.
Well,
I'm with you.
Still send the packets out, still send them out on the computer. But
Yeah, then we can reference back to the,
and then we can each bring you don't have to print out, if you print it out for us the first 5 or 8 pages of it, then you don't have to do it again, we'll just bring it with us to the meeting. But then we can mark them up and have little side notes and stuff on it, because I had mine here written up, and it still took me a while to find the stuff I made it in there. It's hard to find that stuff there, and you can't find it. You know you read it somewhere on your phone or on the computer, but you can't find it in the darn package, so it's difficult. So if anyone would like that, I would like to have them sent to me like that. Anybody else?
sounds like a good
Is that
plan.
everybody?
The whole board then? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could just pick it up at the office, at the town hall if you want to.
Okay.
I have a green folder in the tax collector's office.
Does it say 50 cents on mailing?
Well, it'll
Be
probably
about
cost a lot more than
$1.50.
50 cents. It's gonna be heavy. So it might be 5 or 8 pages per application. So I guess I would say this, who wants it mailed and who wants to pick theirs up?
Mail.
Mail.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll pick up.
You'll pick up, okay.
I'll pick mine up too, actually.
I can pick mine up.
Wait, let's go back.
I don't know, Sarah, which is easier, to mail it to us or to have us all running in to pick it up?
That's
Well,
right.
here's
Well-
the thing, I'm not in town.
Yeah, you're not
You're-
available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just mail, yeah, I'll take mine mail too.
Some of us are still retired.
Put theirs in one envelope.
Put me on the mailing list.
Okay, who else wants one? Because I can do either. It doesn't actually matter to me, I just.
Well, I'll pick it up unless the weather's inclement and I can't get
I'll
there.
pick you up my truck, say, to take you in, how's that?
Oh, I wouldn't ride with me, I'd argue all.
Mail to everybody in town. One to everybody in town.
And then we'll bring them to the meeting with us.
Okay, mail a mail.
We can look them over and really digest it a little bit better, I think.
So I'm probably going to be reaching out to all of you and asking for your mailing addresses if I don't already have.
That's fine.
But I don't want them right now, I'd rather they be emailed to me.
No, I don't want to, that's
Oh, we could
good.
just email them to you.
Yeah. Okay. We got that. Okay, so I just want to clarify one part of that. So do you want the actual applications sent to you? You know, because there's like, or the pages of the applications that actually have information on them. You know, like this is an application for the home-based business, and it had.
Yeah, but I think that's easy enough to go over, you know, on the computer screen. It's
Okay.
like the minutes and your comments and department head comments, things like that.
But like, you don't need the tax card?
No.
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 Okay.
Just,
Okay.
Tax cards are easy to look up if you get that curious.
yeah,
Okay.
again, yeah, just the,
We'll
The agenda.
revisit this, and if you don't like what gets sent, we'll
Yeah.
revisit.
okay. And then just the email, just the full packet. So another thing that we probably should be doing at some point, if we have a chance between these meetings here, slower meetings, is just to have some actual workshop meetings here. Instead of, you know, we might have one applicant or something in, but you should just designate it as a workshop meeting, because it's taken us all this time just to get our rules and procedures done. You know, we have site plan review regulations to go over and that kind of stuff. So if we reserve a meeting for that, then we'll probably get it done rather than waiting for the end of the meeting when everybody's tired and nobody wants to do it or something. So I'll rather do that. And in those meetings, we also, I think, should go over some of these plans. Like, this is a good set of plans here, but these plans here, there's a lot of information in those plans that are useful to us just to go over. And you don't have to have any special requirements or education or anything to read these. You do electrical schematics or mechanical drawings, you do, but these you don't. These, we just need the basic stuff that we can go over on a set of plans, and just in a workshop meeting or a couple workshop meetings, just to see what's actually in those plans and see, you know, easily how to read them, and just to familiarize ourselves with those. So I think we ought to do that, and we'll just use an old set of plans. We don't use anything current or anything like that because it'd be considered a meeting. But like, I've got an old set of plans from Market Basket there that I had to locate some pipes up there. And that's a great set of drawings there. We did that a long time ago, so we could just use that and go through them, look at the title blocks, and just write down the whole thing and get familiar with it in a workshop meeting. So stuff like that. That's all I got.
I got one thing before we get out of here. Legislators added again, there's two bills right now, you guys should actually look at, in HB 44, it's going to trash long established single-family neighborhoods while trashing traditional local controls, taking local control away from us again. Look at that one.
HB 44.
HB 44.
Okay.
And the other one is SB 231. You go down to Massachusetts, you these stack them and rack them developments. That's what that's all about. And they want to get handed $65 million.
SB 244.
244.
HB 44, and then the other one's SB 231.
Oh, 230.
Senate bill.
Sorry.
Okay, and what that was.
And that's, they want to hand $65 million to developers, and that's your tax money that they're going to give to developers. It's going to force towns to do this type of, we aren't going to have control over it anymore. So check that one out too.
I'm sorry, I'm misunderstanding you. What is SB 231?
241, wasn't it?
231.
231.
231? None of us can hear.
I didn't get what it proposes.
Okay, it's going to hand $65 million to developers to force towns to build stack them and pack them type buildings.
Multifamily.
65 million.
That's even if it's not wanted or needed. They could go
We'll
in.
go over and see, and we're actually read the full meat of the bill to see exactly what the heck
And actually, Bruce Tatro is on the municipal government that controls these committee, that has to go through these committees. Of course, we have two other ones. We have roads, and we also have parking. So you could contact them too, with how you feel about that. I have a meeting on well, Sly and I both do have a committee meeting on Saturday with the county, and we're going to bring it up to Executive Dave Wheeler. Even though he doesn't control these, he knows he's been there forever, so he knows all the legislators. He may be back in the governor on these, I don't know, but I'm going to have a discussion with him and see if he would agree with us that these are probably not good bills for us.
Basically just taking away local control.
Right.
They're forcing, Keane's running into it, where they're, some people want to take the minimum lot sizes. Right.
Yeah. So they want to change that. Well, in Keene, you can build 4 houses on an acre of land in a lot of the residential areas.
4 houses?
Yeah. And that was one of the proposals that came last legislation season, that they wanted on all the sewers and water, they wanted to take and have 4, no more than 10,000 per square. We would not have the option of having a 1 acre lot in our residential areas. We would be forced to put 4 houses on those lots. We wouldn't be allowed to make our own judgments or have the town vote on the zoning difference. In other words, it's just taking zoning away from us and our people and putting it at the state level.
Some of the reps from Bedford are really fighting this because they,
Yeah.
what was it, 2,000 units, I think they had last year.
Yep.
That just overwhelming their infrastructure.
All right then. Let's see. Yeah, motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make the motion.
Motion by Brandon to adjourn,
Second.
second by Richard. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. All opposed? And we are
Recording stopped.
What?
You go inside.
No, I can't. My family's coming to visit,
Over it with you at all.
and I'd rather visit with them.